Hello poker enthusiasts, it's normal for beginners to make a lot of mistakes, but the sooner you get rid of those mistakes, the quicker the path to glory. So please don't make the mistakes our protagonists made in today's hand. Let's dive in.
In this first hand we have quite a few mistakes now. Here we have two limpers in a 2-5 game, and now Hero decides to raise King 9 suited here in the cutoff. I don't mind this, but I do mind the size. Especially in live poker, this definitely has to be bigger. I would go at least 30 here, if not even 35. In this case we make it 4x, so 20, and the button calls and the small blind calls, and weirdly both limpers now fold. So we go three ways to a flop: 9-8 deuce, we have top pair, good kicker, and a backdoor flush draw, and this makes our hero c-bet this for almost half pot. And I really do not like this continuation bet here. We are not in position, we have one player to act behind us, it's a 9 high flop, and the combination of a 9 and an 8 on the flop basically make check your entire range out of position here, especially in a multi-way pot. So this is a range check for me. I would check aces, I would check pocket nines, I would check everything here, and then potentially go for a check raise depending on the situation and my hand. But here we c-bet, the button calls, and the small blind calls. The Jack of Hearts does not directly improve our hand, but now we have a flush draw to go with our pair, which is now second pair. Small blind checks again, we now check, I think this is the right play here, and the button checks behind. On this river now it's a bit bittersweet because we have two pair, but the flush comes in and also a straight comes in. So small blind now checks. We have two options. One is to go with a block bet, which I would make something like 40 or 50 here. But the other option is, and that's the one I would advocate, and that's probably what most players wouldn't do, and that is a check fold. Because if the button bets here, we are likely not good despite our two pair. I would definitely fold to a bet here if I only had one pair, even if it's top pair. With two pair you could consider calling, but not if the action is like this. So now we have an almost pot-sized bet by the button, and the small blind calls here, so I just do not expect to ever be good here. But Hero doesn't believe that, and he calls and he loses to the nut flush, and he would have won against the small blinds, weaker two pair, but that's not the point. You are most likely beat by one of the players. I can't see too many bluffs here from the button, nor can I see a lot of value bets that are weaker. This next hand is from 10NL and was played by a student of mine. We have a min raise in the hijack, a call in the cutoff, and we now squeeze 9-8 suited in the big blind. In theory I like this play, in practice I don't. So what are the problems here? First of all, squeezing is not the same as 3-betting because the pot is already a bit bigger, so I think 9-8 suited is a good hand to just flat call here anyway. I do like it, however, to normally 3-bet in the big blind with suited connectors. These are hands that most players actually miss, so it's great that my student found this one, even though not exactly in the right spot. And the reason why not is the cutoff is only starting the hand with 54 big blind, which means that hands go up in value that have high cards, something like ace king, ace queen, king queen, king jack, even ace jack, but 9 high is just not that great for a squeeze. And the other problem is the size here. So normally against an open raise I would make it about 12 to 12 and a half here, and with the caller in between I would make it something like 14 or even 15. But again, because the cutoff is short stacked, we would just inflate the pot with 9 high, which I don't like. But we're doing that anyway here, and the hijack gets out of the way, but the cutoff now calls. This flop here is actually pretty bad for us, so what we can do here is check most of our range or c-bet big meaning, well, between half pot and 2/3. Again, because cutoff is so short stacked, I would be closer to half pot, and it might perform quite well if we do that. I don't mind it in practice to now c-bet, because we could get a hand like ace jack to fold pretty much, or definitely a hand like king queen, king jack. We lose against all those hands and we can get them to fold, and so our hero goes half pot here. I do like that, and we get called by the cutoff in this case. Okay, so now let's do a bit of hand reading. What do we get called by here? Well, he shouldn't really float here with a lot of ace x. He shouldn't float with king x, queen x, jack x, any of that. So most likely he has a pair, and potentially he has an ace. On the 7 river now, our hero decides to just jam. Well, we just did a bit of hand reading. What did we say? Most of the cutoff's range is made up of pairs. And I do not think that he will fold any pair for the remaining 31 big blinds here. He shouldn't, quite frankly, if he goes that far. So all we could hope that he folds is a hand like ace x, where he was just floating with ace high and gut shot. But I don't think this is a profitable play, and indeed we get snapped off, and we get snapped off by ace 9 of diamond, which for me is a surprise to see. And if we can't get villain to fold ace 9 of diamonds on this turn, well, then make a note here that this is a big calling station. You have to stop bluffing him and instead go for thin value. Okay, so in this next hand we have pocket 5s in the cutoff. It folds to us, and notice how deep we are, 250 big blinds. We make it 3x, happy with that given the depth of play, and now we get 3-bet by the big blind, and again he makes it 5x, absolutely fine at this stack depth. We do call here. This is a mix in GTO between calling and folding. Because we are so deep and we have position, I am happy to call this 3-bet, and we have an amazing flop, full house here, 5, 6, 6, and the big blind pots it now. So again, the size of the c-bet is a reflection of the stack depth here, so I don't mind him to go that big, although he could have gone more like 3/4 here rather than really potting it. So it might mean that he has a hand, and because he might have a hand like aces or queens or so, I think we could actually raise this one here. I'm okay with just calling here, but we could consider, simply because we're so deep. If we were 100 big blinds deep, I would never raise here, but because we are so deep, we could consider making it something like 135 or so. But hero calls here, as I said, fine with that. Now the 9 comes in. Well, unless he has pocket 9s, this one is definitely okay for us. And he now continues blasting, not quite pot, but not far off pot. And at this point now, yeah, you have two options again, calling or raising, but we're still quite deep here, and I don't know, like, if this is the kind of player that would get it in with aces or kings here. I would probably just shove here and make it look like I have maybe some backdoor diamonds or something like 10s or jacks, and if he has an overpair, he probably wouldn't get away with it. So I would just jam here, but hero calls, and I don't think it's terrible, but we might have lost some value. And now, unfortunately, the river is the worst card in the deck. I mean, even an ace or a king would not be as bad as this one, because now we lose to virtually any pocket pair, plus we lose to a 9, and we obviously lose to a 6 if he ever has that. And he now jams. And at this point, I'm sorry to say, but this is just a fold. Like, what do we beat here? Yes, before the river, we beat almost everything. But this is just called fortune reversal, and it's very unlucky, but we have to find a disciplined fold. Because unless he has a hand like ace king or ace queen or king queen that he decides to triple barrel with here, and even if it's ace king of diamond, I don't think that at these stakes a lot of players would risk their entire stack of 250 big blinds on a triple barrel bluff in a 3-bet pot. And if they don't have that, then they must have some sort of a pocket pair, or even better, and then we are just dead against that. So this has to be a fold. Instead, Hero just couldn't let go. He called and he lost against the pocket kings. So this next hand was played at a 5-10-10 game live. So we have 3 blinds here. Under the gun player makes it 40. An aggressive cutoff flat calls here, and we have king 10 suited on the button. I do like that Hero went for the squeeze here, however I do not like the size. I would go 3x without the in-between caller, and with a caller I would just add the 40 to my raise size, so I would go about 160, 165 here, but at the very minimum 150. No surprise that we get called by both players, and here we are, ace jack 9, and before we can even think whether we would like to c-bet this one, the under the gun player now donks for over half pot, and the cutoff calls here. So now we have all 3 options here. We could of course try to raise here and wrap a big pair, which would even be a set here with aces or jacks, but against 2-player I'm not too keen on that option, especially because both are saying that they have something. We could of course just fold here, or we could call hoping to hit our gut shot or somehow get there with a backdoor flush draw here. So let's do some math and see if it's worth calling here. So the total pot as it stands now is $825, and the chances of hitting a queen on the turn are somewhere between 8 and 9%. The pot odds, so we have to call $220 to win a total pot of $1,025. So that means that we would have to be good 21% of the time. Obviously, our chances are only 8%, so we are not getting the direct odds. However, that's not the end of the story, because there are such things as implied odds. So if we hit our queen, we have to make about 12 times the $220. So because our chances of hitting are about 8%, we calculate that by 12 and then we'll get to roughly 100. So that would be our break-even point, 12 times $220, which is $2,640. If we manage to stack both players here in case we hit our queen, then we definitely do get the odds, because one of them started the hand with 1300, the other one with 1800, plus the money that we have already put in, so we would definitely get those implied odds. However, how likely is it that we're gonna win and stack both players? And then there is another danger. Say one of them has pocket jacks or pocket nines here, and we do get our miracle queen on the turn, we get it all in, and then they hit a full house on the river. That's another 20% of the time that we would lose there. Bottom line is, I do not think that we have the implied odds here to call, because it's very possible that there won't be any money in the pot after that no one will put any additional money once we hit our queen if we do so. So that's why I would just fold here, and I think a lot of players would like to try their luck here and gamble and see if they can hit their queen. In this case, that's exactly what Hero did, so he called, and look at this turn card here. It is an offsuit queen, what a dream. And it gets even better because the under the gun player just jams here, the cutoff jams behind, and we have the easiest call in the world with the nuts here, and we do hold up in the end here. But yeah, as you can see, one of them had 2 pair, the other one had a set here. So overall, our hero got extremely lucky here to ship a massive pot, but I don't think he should really have called that flop bet there. This last hand for today has a few mistakes that I'm sure that a lot of players make. So this is an unusual game here with a straddle and a double straddle at 1-2. So it's a 1-2-4-8 and the low jack now makes it 40. We are quite deep here, 500, so that's 250 big blinds, but don't be fooled by that because it actually goes by straddles or double straddles even here. So the big blind, as it were, is more like 8 instead of 2, and also there are 4 blinds, which makes our button position worse than it seems, because there are 4 players to act behind in case we call here, and that's exactly what Hero does. In a 2 blind game, I'm happy with calling here. In a 3 blind game it already is marginal. In a 4 blind game this is bad. You can 3-bet here but not flat call because you might get squeezed here, and you don't want to play even a multi-way pot with like 3, 4, 5 players here, even though you have position. In this case here the double straddler also calls, and we get this flop here, ace jack 10, so we have bottom 2 pairs, but it's also a 3 flush board and a straight board. And now the low jack goes pretty big here, more than half pot. On this board you should basically have very few continuation bets, and if he does then they should be tiny. This indicates that he probably has a pretty good hand. And I mean, I can't fault Hero for calling here, although I don't think already that it's that great, because yes, I mean, we do beat ace-king and ace-queen, but he might have ace-jack, he might have pocket jacks, he might have pocket aces, he might have pocket tens. There are a lot of hands that we lose to here. I don't think he has a flush, but I am actually worried that we are behind here a good chunk of the time. And once the other player calls as well, now I would be very, very reluctant to put any more money into the pot. So keep that in mind. And then look at this turn card here. It gets absolutely insanely bad for us. Now basically if anyone puts any money into the pot, I would just run for the woods here. In this case now the low jack bets not that huge, but still almost half pot again. And as I said, we could be hoping to hit a full house, but I wouldn't even necessarily want to do that because we might be beat. And on this board here, as I said, I would just run. I would fold. But what does Hero do? He jams? Why? What do you get called by that you beat, and do you want to turn your 2 pair into a bluff here? You'd get snapped off by a king or a queen of diamonds here and might get a set to fold, although I doubt it, because they have the pot odds to call and hope to hit a house here against your perceived flush. But in this case we get called by the under the gun player, and we also get called by the low jack. I would be absolutely gobsmacked if we were good in this situation, and obviously we are not. One of them had the better 2 pair than us, and I think he should have played this much more passively, the low jack player, and the other one has a 7 high flush, which on the turn, I mean, it's questionable if he should call that all in there with a 7 high flush. He should probably just have raised the flop, but he does win this pot, and Hero had absolutely no business getting stacked here. I think that was incredibly bad, and just keep in mind all the mistakes Hero made here, which could all have been avoided by either folding or raising pre-flop.
What was your biggest mistake at the poker table? Let me know in the comments below. And check out this next video to add a crucial play to your arsenal.